right, back to the phones. This is Bobby, Bunker Hill, Indiana. I'm glad you waited. Great to have you on the EIB network. Hello.
Yes, hello, Rush. It's good to speak to you again.
Thank you.
I want to tell you, I've thought about this for a long time. I am so happy that you have finally granted yourself permission to enjoy life. I'm glad to hear it. We miss you when you're gone, but we know you need that time off to recharge your batteries too, and I'm glad you get to do it.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. What is that in reference to, Bobby?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
What are you referring to when you say you're glad I'm finally deciding to enjoy life? I've always tried to do that.
Well, I've listened to you for years and years, and I know for a long time you didn't take vacations, you didn't take days off.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
then you do that now, and you need that.
Right, they had to force me out of here. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
But you enjoy yourself now, and I think a lot of that has to do with Catherine, too. But
well, there's no question.
Yes, you've taken time now to enjoy life, and I'm glad to hear that.
Absolutely, no doubt about that.
And I promised my son if I got to talk to you ever again, I would let you know. We do have a dog named Sugar, a cat named Rush, which is, we put them together, Sugar Rush, and two other cats named Liberty and Reagan. And he said, Rush must be a Republican. He doesn't cover anything up.
See, I told you folks that people name their animals after me.
And he loves your books. And by the way, he's going to be 39 in August, but he loves your books.
Well, one person at a time. Whoever, that's great. That's great.
But what I called about, Rush, was you had a call earlier from Indiana, and I have a different take. I think there is going to be some kickback to the Democrat Party on this and their mouth organ, the so-called press, because I know a couple of lifelong Democrats. Their entire family voted Democrat, never, ever would have voted for God himself if it was a Republican, one of which is my uncle. And he, a couple of months ago, said he would never vote for them again. He, of course, won't vote for Republican, but he'll go independent or something. And the lady, she not only said she's not doing that anymore, but she's actually given money to the Republican Party, and they can't understand why won't the Republicans do something. And my take on this issue with them going after the gay thing in Indiana, I think it's like everything else. The Democrats are so smug, so full of themselves. Yeah. I think they're the smartest people around. They never remember anything. They have a very short memory span. We can think back to the Wellstone Memorial. We can think back to there was an election held, and they had their little thing afterwards where they asked people questions, and they couldn't believe that they actually thought the way they did about certain things. And so then they decided, well, maybe we should try to reach out to them, which they kind of conned a few people for a little bit.
Yeah, but it's always temporary. It never lasts. Yes. So you think the caller who said this Indiana incident is going to end up being a tipping point? You think that he's got a point because you're running into Democrats in Indiana who are upset by what other Democrats are doing? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think the party in general and their mouth organ, the press, because like I said, the Wellstone Memorial, that really came back to bite them big. And it's like everything else. They keep going over, to the so-called health care plan. People are angry about that. They're furious with what they're doing.
Yeah, but here's my Bobby. Here's my problem with it. They're not losing. Obama, look, the Democrats, honestly, I have to say praising, they lost the midterm elections in 2010 and 2014. It has not stopped them. It hasn't stopped Obama. I mean, they're not stopping. Their mission hasn't been arrested. I don't care. You're probably right that more people are now aware of what they're doing and who they are and what their real agenda is, but it's not stopping them because they don't care about public opinion. Except when it supports them. When public opinion does not support them, they say, screw it. And they find ways to try to punish people who disagree with them. But they're not moved by it. They're not changed by public. That's why I made mention earlier today. There's a Bloomberg News column written by a well-known lefty named Dave Weigel. And he's looked at some Marist University polling data about this situation in Indiana. And it is horrible for the Democrats. Now, your point about the Democrats being smug and arrogant is right on the money. They believe if they really do, that they are the majority thinking, the majority opinion in this country. Therefore, when this Indiana thing comes up and the pizzeria refuses to serve pizza, cater pizza for a gay wedding, they really believe 80% of the country hates the pizzeria. When in fact, the polling data shows that nearly 55 to 60% of the country agrees with the pizzeria. Now, whatever the number is, the Democrats are not in the majority. And he was writing a column to warn them that they're on the wrong side of not only history, but politics on this whole thing in Indiana as it relates to Religious Freedom Restoration Acts, that those bills, those pieces of legislation, be they federal or state, are supported by a majority of Americans, and that Christians are not hated universally in America. Hell, 80% of the people in this country say they're Christian. Stop and think of that for a minute. 80% of the people in this country say they're Christian. Would you say that Christians are losing ground? There's no question they are. And yet they're 80% of the admitted population. The Democrats are not losing anything here. That's the point, because there's no pushback against them. Here's the thing is. The thing is that the Democrats believe their own press, which is fine and dandy. The problem is the Republicans believe the Democrats' press too. And that's how the Democrats end up thinking they are the majority of everything here. The media is a big factor in that, as we've discussed, and everybody knows. But Dave Weigel was trying to remind them, you guys, you're not on the majority side of this in any way, no matter how, even the majority of Democrats oppose what the leftist activists in Indiana are doing. And it was like 62-32 Democrats. Maybe it was 50-some-odd, 40-some-odd Democrat side. But even a majority of Democrats are uncomfortable. And that's what Bobby was saying in our last call from Indiana. The question is whether or not it's a tipping point. And as I say, you never know something's a tipping point until long after the fact. It's like you can't connect the dots until whatever you're connecting has happened. You can't connect the dots in the future. You can only connect them with things that you know have happened, and that is when you are able to learn from connecting the dots. But in the future, it's hard to predict. So you just keep fighting for what you believe in. That's why you never give up, because on any given day, it's impossible to know, especially in the midst of a culture war like we're having. You can't know day to day if you're winning it or losing it. You might think you're going one way or the other, but you don't know for sure. You won't know for quite a while.